Okay, so welcome back. In this section, I'm going to go into the wonderful and mysterious world of deploying your application in an actual server. So right now we have, our Flask blogging application, and it's running on this kind of like ugly URL that Cloud9 is giving us. But what if I want to like have this as a like custom domain, like my flaskblog.com? So there's quite a few steps that you need to do that, and so I'm gonna cover that in the next few videos, and I'm gonna be adding more stuff as time permits because there are many options, and I want to go over like some of those initial options in the following few minutes. So there are uh, very good cloud providers, and I'm gonna only refer to cloud services because that's what's most popular right now in terms of like easy to deploy and easy to manage. But there's kind of like there's two different ways that you can deploy an application in terms of the hosting structure. One is cloud, and that includes like cloud providers like Amazon Web Services, Rackspace, and DigitalOcean to name a few. There's many more. But those cloud servers, the basic concept is that you can basically spawn this servers, and you can destroy them as well without any problems. Like you're not tied to using the servers forever or for a month or for a week. It's just like kind of like on demand. And all these services provide you with the capacity of having a server that you kind of like set up and start putting stuff in it, and then if you don't need it anymore, you can destroy them. And it can be one or it can be hundreds of servers. It doesn't really matter. But there's another kind of like type of hosting which is dedicated, and dedicated can mean two things. One is the company actually gives you a a server that they provision, and they put in a rack for you, and then you kind of like you get it on a long-term contract, but that server is only dedicated for you, and nobody else has access to that server. um, but also there's within the dedicated servers you can also like rent what's called a rack. And a rack, imagine it's like a cabinet somewhere in a data center where you can actually physically insert servers that you can purchase. So that's kind of like a more advanced option. That was the only option that I had when I was beginning my career. You would have to like actually buy a server. Back at that time, it was like Sun servers, the most popular ones, and you would buy them, and then you would like contract a hosting service to put them in a cabinet for you, and you would rent the actual cabinet. So it would be kind of like uh, they would be like half rack or full rack, meaning that you could have four, five, six servers depending on the size, because each server can have different sizes. Like database servers would typically be beefier and like bigger than application servers. So I think that the one thing that nowadays you can have actually these companies give you a dedicated server, but they are the ones that are actually like leasing the actual server, but they're giving it to you and you don't share with anybody else. With the cloud servers, in the other hand, cloud servers are like shared. So what happens is this is kind of like Docker. If you did the Docker section earlier, it's kind of like you have an actual like physical server, right? But that physical server is like it's kind of like powerful. So those servers are actually split into like mini cloud servers, and that's what they're giving you access to. But what happens is within that physical server, you could be sharing that server with one two or five other users, and each one of those users is completely independent from each other in terms of like the file directory and the resource, in terms of like kind of like user management um, and bandwidth and all that. But in reality, if there's one client or one customer that is with you on that server and he's running something that's really heavy, like he's, let's say, serving a community-based video hosting like website, then your own application could suffer from that, because it's kind of like sharing the resources of memory and CPU. So you want to like be able to kind of like, either, if depending on what your needs are for the application, you can get like different sizes, so more CPU, more RAM within that cloud server, and kind of like in that way guarantee the performance of your cloud server. There's many things that I can talk about in this field, because I've been kind of like doing it for years. But feel free to like ask questions and put any comments you have on the forum. But that's kind of like a very kind of like simple explanation of what cloud servers and dedicated servers mean. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to start using a very simple, very small cloud server, so that we can just see how that works, and then you can learn how to continue upgrading your knowledge, testing things out by yourself. So let's go ahead and start with one of these hosting providers. And one thing before we start, I wanted to like briefly give you, I have experience with the three of them. So I want to give you what the pros and cons I see with each one of these. So with Amazon Web Services, I really like all the products they have. So they have many different products that are accessible to you, and by far this is the company that has the more options for you. So they not only have virtual servers, they also have like things like auto scaling and load balancing. Auto scaling means that it can automatically spawn cloud servers for you if you have a lot of traffic, and then kind of like delete them if the traffic goes down. Load balancing means that you usually have more than one web server or application server responding to your request, so that you can kind of like, if you have a lot of traffic, you can kind of like distribute that load between 1, 2, 3, 4 servers without any problem. So they have actual like cloud load balancing capabilities. Then they have all the like file storage piece of things. They have what's called a CDN, as well as S3, which is their storage system, and that allows you to like store static things like images or videos, not using your cloud like server itself, but using kind of like a more robust storage backend that Amazon has. They have databases as a service, so you can have both SQL or NoSQL databases that are not running on your cloud, but are running in kind of like Amazon's kind of backend, which is good if you have a lot of traffic. Then they have a lot of like networking capabilities. They have like private cloud, virtual private cloud, which means that servers can talk to each other for your account, but people from outside cannot like see the traffic between them. And then there's other things that I'm not gonna get into, including like analytics. They have mobile services like notification systems and also mobile analytics and a lot of other things. But that's one thing that I like about Amazon. Like I said, they have a lot of services for you to tap into. One thing that I don't like about Amazon Web Services is the lack of support. Like if your server breaks down or there's issues, the only thing you can get is like there's a status Amazon Web Services page that you can look at if you're having problems. and I believe they have some sort of premium like support, but it's very costly, or at least costs money. And so that's one thing that you need to really know your stuff to use Amazon Web Services. If you're just starting out, it might not kind of like be the best option, because you're going to have to like figure out if your servers have issues, what's happening. Rackspace, on the other hand, what I like about them is exactly what Amazon doesn't have, which is support. At any given point, even if you have like a low, like a small cloud server, you can tap into the support button, and you have a real-time chat with a person that can look at your server and see what's going on. So this is a very good option if you want to just start out and have the support in there. And they don't charge you like extra for it. Of course, it's kind of like built in on their prices, but it's a very, I love they call it fanatical support. They are very helpful, very like people that know their stuff. So highly recommend, and I've had both personal and commercial relationship with Rackspace, so I really recommend them. And then the last one is DigitalOcean, which I think they're a newcomer, but they're like so cool. They're kind of like, I feel like this is a developer a version of hosting. Like it's very developer oriented, so it's very easy, but at the same time it's very powerful. Their servers are amazing in terms of like you can use the smallest cloud server, and the performance you have from them it's very very good. I'm not sure if they do it differently from other cloud providers or what hypervisor software they use, but if I use like a small or the smallest cloud server for Amazon or Rackspace, I always kind of like run into problems if I got a little more traffic, or the WordPress installation was a little bigger. With DigitalOcean, it's kind of like the smallest server is already kind of like I feel powerful, and then you can just increase from there. They also have a very good strong community, so I haven't used their support. I don't know, or I don't think they have like support like Rackspace does. But if you can post things to their community, and people are like very helpful and knowledgeable, so it's kind of like a forum where people can ask questions, and they're really good. The last but not least thing that you need to consider is you need to like put your domain name somewhere. And I've been using GoDaddy for years and years. They have reasonable prices. They of course they've been kind of like a little bit criticized by their Super Bowl ads and the way that they market. Although lately they've been not doing that kind of like sleazy advertising as much. But their service is good. I've never used any of like their kind of like extra services, like email or whatever, marketing, or all the things that they offer. They offer a lot of stuff. I just use their regular like domain hosting, and they're really good. So we're gonna cover that as well. But of course, there's many also domain name providers, so you can go ahead and look at other options. So that's it. Let's start with looking at how we can set up our first cloud server.